What's going on, everybody? Let's talk Jets radio. Quick video here. State of the Jets heading into the regular season. Preseason is now wrapped up. Nice 10-6 victory over the Giants last night. Shame we don't still have the Snoopy Bowl around, but nice win anyway. Nice to get out of the preseason without any injuries in particular. That's the biggest thing. That's the priority. So glad they were able to do that. And before I get into the 53 and the cuts that are going to happen on Tuesday, first thing I want to do is actually give a shout out to Coach Saleh. And I know once the season gets started, there's going to be plenty of things that, week to week, we're probably going to hammer him on, which is, kind of par for the course once we're in the regular season. But as far as training camp goes, as far as him just getting this team ready for week one, and even his evolution as a head coach, I do want to give him some credit. Obviously, we've always said he seems like a good guy, a sincere guy, somebody you'd like to grab a beer with. I think we've all questioned many things as far as his coaching philosophy and in-game adjustments, time management. Like, there's a number of things that we'd all like to see him do better. But as far as preparing his team to get ready for this season and for week one, to me, this year, this training camp has been completely different. And I know it's been a talking point because the Jets didn't play their starters pretty much at all for the entire preseason. I know Clemens got some reps, Tippmann got a few reps in that first game, but for the most part, you did not play your starters at all. And I'm going to say it right now because I already know the media is ready for this. If the Jets don't win week one, I already know that's going to be the main talking point that they're all going to hammer away at. Why didn't you play your starters for the preseason? Why didn't you give them any reps? Was the team fully ready? Were they prepared? And just in comparison to Saleh's first 3 years, I was at a number of practices for each of those years. I was at, I think, 7 this year. As far as just the tempo of practice, the amount of team reps that they got in each day, completely different. And there were so many practices in years past where I would literally get into my car and just try to think, like, how am I going to do a recap of 2 hours of walkthroughs and individual drills and not a lot of starters getting reps. And I know they limited some veterans this year. I think that was the smart move. Again, they got through it healthy, so I'm not going to question anything there. But when you do have some guys that are older, like Tyron Smith and Moses, it's obviously important to manage their workload throughout the summer. So I think they did that. How ready the team is to play week one, that's yet to be seen. But from what I could see, just from the naked eye, being there as a fan, and from a lot of the reports that we've been getting on the days that I haven't been there, it just seems like there's been a little bit more attention to detail, guys a little bit more locked in, less cameras around, and just everybody hungry getting ready for week one. So I think that's a reflection of the coach. So I do give him some credit for that. Obviously, just a lot still to be seen as far as how ready this team actually is. But that's been like the big question because it seems like on paper this roster is ready to go. They are going to have some tough decisions to make. So just going position by position, quarterback position, I think that's an easy one. I have been a fan of Adrian Martinez. I think he's played well. He showed you some good mobility. But at the end of the day, I don't think they have the luxury of keeping 3 quarterbacks right now. If Jordan Travis was healthy, maybe it's a different conversation. But he's going to be starting on IR. So carrying Martinez or Peasley, like, to me, both those guys are practice squad guys, good developmental guys. But if it ever came to either one of them needing to play a game, you could almost bet that Joe Douglas is making a trade for a Kirk Cousins veteran type. He's not going to go down, him or Saleh. They're not going to go down this season with Adrian Martinez playing games if it somehow came to that. And if it did, the season's probably over anyway. So I think the Jets are just carrying 2 quarterbacks. I'm fine with that. The running back position got very interesting last night with Izzy just having a phenomenal game, but you do have to question, is there a spot for him on this roster? Do you need 4 running backs? We know what Brees could do. Braylon Allen, he's obviously looked the part as that number 2 back, that power back, and even Isaiah Davis, we know he can contribute a little bit on special teams. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. So it seems like they have their top 3. Izzy definitely brings a different element as far as speed. He can help you a little bit on special teams as well. I just don't know if there's a need for a 4th running back right now, so something to watch there. The tight end position also, this is one that I think you definitely have to kind of pay attention to some waiver claims. I've always been a huge fan of Kenny Yeboah. I know he had the groin injury last night. Not sure how serious it is, but definitely it seems like he's been a little bit less noticeable this year than the past couple of years that he's been with the team. Zach Kuntz has done absolutely nothing to warrant a spot on the 53 either. Just drops and a lot of inconsistent play from him. Even though physically, I felt he looks like a different player. And then your top two are set. Conklin, Ruckert still need to see a lot more out of him. And you have your veteran in Ferkser, your tight end fullback hybrid. I felt like they needed a fourth. I thought it was going to be Yeboah. Now the injury, if he's supposed to be out a couple weeks, does that complicate things? I still think they're going to be in the market for a veteran tight end or somebody that they feel maybe can add a different element to the passing game, help out blocking, something. I think they need another tight end. Offensive line, I feel like it's pretty much set also. Same kind of thing, though, with Xavier Newman going down. How serious is that? He provided some versatility, both guard and center. He probably was your 10th offensive lineman. The four backups right now, Fashanu, Carter Warren, Max Mitchell, he also got banged up. I still don't think his roster spot's in jeopardy. And then Wes Schweitzer with your starting five, that would be your top 9. So if they did keep a 10th, I thought it would be Newman. Now, let's see, what his status is health-wise. Defensive line, I have no idea what the Jets are going to do with this defensive line because, in theory, you have so many guys that you have to pay in the next year or two. It would be nice if they did have a couple undrafted free agents that were just good depth players that were going to be here for the next couple of years. And you have 3 to choose from with Braden McGregor, Leonard Taylor, and Eric Watts. They've all had phenomenal summers. They were all over the place, just in the backfield almost every other play, it felt like. Last night against the Giants, McGregor and Taylor had the 2 sacks back-to-back. McKinley, 2.5 sacks, throw him in there. Even Tanzel Smart's been making plays, Jalen Holmes. And when you start to look at the defensive line, I mean, assuming Reddick's going to be here, you got him, you got Kinlaw, you got Jermaine Johnson, you got Quinnen Williams as your starting 4. Depth-wise, you got Lecky Fotu, you got Solomon Thomas, you got Will McDonald. Is Michael Clemens going to make it? Personally, I don't think he's done enough to secure a spot, but he's also getting those reps against ones where, we've seen Taylor and Watts essentially making plays every day against 2s and 3s. Is that going to factor into their decision? Unfortunately, I feel like it probably will. It feels like Clemens is going to make it. I would love to see the Jets stick with Taylor, stick with Watts, even McGregor. I think he deserves a spot. It would be impossible, I think, with the camp that McKinley's had to cut him, especially after the game last night. But either way, they're going to have at least 2 or 3 guys that are probably getting claimed elsewhere, which is, a good problem to have. But you just want to make sure you're keeping the right guys, both for the present and the future. So some really tough decisions to make on that D-line. Even a guy like Tanzel Smart, seems like every year he's earned a spot, just never makes it. Going to the linebackers, I think Chaz Surratt, he's secured his spot. It was a little up in the air about him versus Aguavin. Seems like they like Aguavin, does some things on special teams. But Surratt, his athleticism looks good. Now he's healthy, which has always been the big question with him. And then Zaire Barnes, he's just been all over the place, making plays, getting in the backfield. Really like the way his game has evolved going into year 2. So excited for him. I think both Surratt and Barnes are going to be your 2 backups at linebacker. And then the final spot, going to the secondary. This was one where I thought maybe they would keep a 6th corner in JBC. I thought he had earned it. Now he's injured. Obviously he didn't play last night. I'm not sure how much longer he's going to be out. I know they said the rest of training camp. But you look at it where Sauce, Michael Carter, and DJ Reed, essentially they don't leave the field at all. And you have Stiggers, who's shown that he could play. Eccles, can play the slot and can play the outside. So do you really need to carry a 6th corner if you want to keep that extra offensive lineman, that extra wide receiver? If you want to keep somebody extra at another spot, can you subtract maybe a DB? I still think that Converse showed you enough throughout the first couple of weeks of training camp, plus his versatility. He can move around. He did so at LSU. So I feel like he's still probably going to make it. Swilling, I think he's made a case for himself. He's done some good things on special teams. But I think he's probably more of a practice squad guy. You can maybe make a case for keeping a 4th safety just because you lost Jordan Whitehead, you have Ashton Davis, you have Chuck Clark coming back from injury. Do you need to have a 4th in that group? I think all 3 of those guys probably could play a little bit. So if you do get one injury, who's your next man up? Does Jalen Key actually make it? Something to watch there. Special teams, even with the two missed field goals, we still have the best kicker in the business with Zerline. Not worried about him at all. Morstead's fine. Hennessy's fine. So overall, feeling good about the roster, feeling good about the Jets' chances to finally end this playoff drought, to finally get a division crown, to get a home playoff game. It just feels like we're so finally due to just have some fun, some good karma, some good experiences this year. So I'm hoping for the best, but these next 48 hours I think could be pretty wild, some difficult cuts to make. But I feel like for the most part, this is different from years past where the bulk of your roster, your core, your top 45 essentially are just about set. And we're talking about, maybe 4 or 5 spots that are really up for grabs on that back end. So can't wait for the season. We are almost there, 15 days. Talk to you guys later. I was about to post my video and then I realized I didn't talk about the wide receivers. So really quickly on the wide receivers, this is actually the one position group where I do think the Jets are going to carry some extra because you do have a guy like Irv Charles, who's essentially your Justin Hardy this year. He's going to be your special teams ace. I think Gibson's shown you enough. He's going to contribute on special teams. Good gadget guy. Just in case Corley isn't ready, or to possibly have both of those guys kind of split reps in the slot and doing different things. And then, with Mike Williams just coming back now to practice, still working his way back to team drills, you would assume he's probably going to be on a pitch count early in the year. Lazard's had a good summer, but I still think Brownlee's probably shown you enough where you'd want to have that extra insurance behind Mike Williams, another big body, 6'4", that could stretch the field, that could go up and get those contested balls. His highs have been really good this year. He's had a few drops and a couple lows, but at the end of the day, he's a second-year player that's still getting better. And now you try to picture him with Aaron Rodgers out there throwing him the football. The sky's the limit for him, and I think he's shown you enough where you want to keep him, have that extra receiver available. So I do think the Jets are going to keep 7 wideouts when you include Irv Charles in that list. So hope you guys enjoyed. Talk to you later.